Can anyone take down Southern Miss or Coastal Carolina and sneak in to win that Sun Belt Conference tournament? Locked on Sun Belt.
You are Locked on Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked on Sun Belt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we'll do predictions. Again, we'll tell you the ending. Well, I'll wait, but I've already said who I think is going to win it, and I don't think it's any big surprise. I think they're the best team in the Sun Belt. We'll just go ahead and say it's Southern Miss is going to win. Okay. At least that's what I think. Who's going to be there to stop them, or can we pull off upsets? All right. We'll talk about the first four. That's coming up on Tuesday, and then we're going to say who can stop. We'll do who can stop Southern Miss and Coastal Carolina. Okay. So it all kind of starts off with, you got to look to, Saturday's winner, the Ragin Cajuns, because they have beaten 4 out of the 5 top teams in the Sun Belt. They beat Southern Miss in a series. They just beat Coastal Carolina in a series. They beat South Alabama in a series. They did lose to Troy and Texas State. So is that only 3? Oh, and they beat App State. They beat App State in the series. Okay. Surprisingly, they lost to ULM and JMU. All right. That's why they're playing in the first 4. Okay. And I think the Cajuns have this really good 1-2 punch in Cody Brasch and Andrew Herrmann. All right. Sunday seems to be a revolving one, although Ty Roman pitched very well on Saturday. All right. So, and then it all kind of comes down to, what are we going to start with to begin with? Because, the Cajuns, sorry to say, I think the Cajuns desperately need to win the game against Marshall just to get them into the tournament. And I don't know if it's going to even itself out, because say they're 40 going in, which is what I think they are right now. And they beat Marshall, they're going to fall a couple of spots because Marshall's 179th. So they'll fall to 42. If you lose to Coastal, they may actually go up 1 or 2 spots because they played Coastal, although it's neutral site instead of at Coastal. But if you beat Coastal, you're gonna pop again to maybe 4 or 5 spots, maybe 4 spots, right? And so you could lose. You could beat Marshall, you drop to 42, beat Coastal, and then you're in the mid-30s and you're in good shape because you either will get App State or Texas State. App State's RPI isn't going to help you, but now all of a sudden you're going to be towards you're getting it towards the semifinals of the Sun Belt Conference tournament. All right. But I do think it's desperate, and people are saying you gotta pitch Cody Brasch. He's your Friday night starter. But he pitched on Thursday, and he didn't pitch very much, to be honest with you. He actually pitched less in terms of number of pitches, I believe, than Andrew Herrmann did, who pitched about an inning less. And maybe that's why Cody was brought out an inning before I thought he should have been brought out, but nonetheless. Still, he pitched 6 innings. And if you pitch him on Tuesday, here could be the thought process. This would be it's not a good thought process because I'm thinking about it, right now. If you pitch him on Tuesday, he probably can only go 50 pitches. So maybe you can get 3 or 4 innings out of him. But then maybe you can bring him back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If you get all the way to Sunday, you might be able to bring him back for, an inning or 2, or maybe, that could be his throw day, 40 or 50 pitches on Sunday. The problem with that theory is you want him to pitch the opening day of the regional. So he's not going to be available to pitch on Sunday because then he's, again, pitching on short rest. So that's why I said kind of thinking about it as they go along. I would not pitch Cody Brasch. You need to win the ball game. I get it. But you really need to be able to beat Marshall. If you are a good Sun Belt team and a team looking to get into the NCAA tournament, you have to beat Marshall. All right. Marshall they're in the middle of the Sun Belt with their batting average. They're 7th in the conference. The Cajuns are last, or like they're 13th in the conference. Their batting average is not great. All right. Been a little bit more clutch lately. They did lose their everything second baseman a couple weeks ago. And so they're looking to move that around. All right. Marshall, in terms of Cajuns, in terms of pitching ERA, sitting 4th in the league, right behind Southern Miss and Arkansas State. Marshall, though, is a 9th, almost a run and a half more than the Cajuns. So the Cajuns have to win this ball game. And I'm not saying don't put out your best. If your best was available, I would do that. I'm not holding Cody Brasch back just for nothing, or Andrew Herrmann just for nothing. But it'd be nice to be able to win a couple of ball games if I beat Marshall. Got to beat Marshall. You could even lose to Coastal and then beat App State or Texas State, and that would be Andrew Herrmann. And then what happens after that, that we don't know. Or maybe Story Pruitt at that point in time, depending what he's doing out of the bullpen. But I'll worry about that part later. All right, now I'm already 3 games in, and the only one who's even if you're facing Coastal again, they're their third pitcher in, whereas the Cajuns would be their 4th pitcher in. And the same thing goes for the other side of the bracket, right? You have to have that pitching depth. That's why it's so hard. That's why you need to avoid the first 4. If you avoid the first 4, then regardless, you're on that same level in terms of depth as the top teams. Coastal and Southern Miss have that huge advantage, not over App State or Texas State or Troy and South Alabama, but over the Cajuns, the Herd, ODU, and Georgia State. And so I think the only team that can compete right now with Southern Miss and App State or Coastal Carolina would be the Cajuns, because that 1-2 punch. The problem is, because they're in the first 4, what's going to come after the 1-2 punch is the only problem. All right. Now, when they lost to Coastal a couple of years ago in the Sun Belt Conference Tournament, they had some outstanding pitching performances, like legendary pitching performances out of the bullpen. Now, they lost the final game of the tournament. I think at that point in time, it was, there was no single elimination at the end. It was double elimination to the end. And so the Cajuns won the first game, but they ran out of pitching for that second game, and Coastal won that one. So someone's going to have to step up if you're going to do it from that first 4. It's really hard. All right. Texas State and App State and ODU and Georgia or Troy and South Alabama don't have to worry about that depth problem. Talent might not be there, but they're going to be on that same level as Coastal and Southern Miss. So the Cajuns could do it. The Cajuns could beat Coastal Carolina. And let's just put that out there. Say they beat the Herd. They pitch Cody Brasch against Coastal Carolina. And then they pitch Andrew Herrmann against, we'll just say, App State. They're number 3. All right. You beat App State. Well, then you got to come back and do it again. Then who? Then that's a big question. Is it Ty Roman? That's who it was this past weekend. And so he pitched well, but then, then you're getting, now you've had 3 games, 3 bullpens. the depth gets a little short. So if anyone can do it, I think it's the Cajuns. I don't think anyone's going to do it. I think, I don't know if Coastal Carolina, I think the Cajuns can beat Coastal Carolina. Beating them twice is going to be really hard. Although they just did that, but that was at home. But I do think Southern Miss is going to go all the way. All right. Let's talk about the first four. All right. We'll break down the Cajuns and Marshall a little bit, and ODU and Georgia State. All right. We'll do that right after I tell you about FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and every possession matters. If you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer for you to get started. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. I like using FanDuel during the playoffs because everything I need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a whole lot more informed. Whether you're looking at player props or just following your favorite stars, it adds another level of excitement to every game. It's really an easy app to navigate and makes a playoff basketball even more engaging from start to finish. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. And the Everydayer Club. Don't forget to head to LockedOnSunbelt.supercast.com. LockedOnSunbelt.supercast.com. Your chance to get Locked On Sunbelt ad-free and be a member of that Discord access. All right, that's LockedOnSunbelt.supercast.com. LockedOnSunbelt.supercast.com. All right. Also, we'll do that a little bit later. You guys have come through in the clutch in terms of subscribers. I mean, a bunch over the weekend. All right. We do have to thank Huff Glory, Twitter handle. All right. He made, or she made this bracket. On Twitter, it's much easier to read than it is on that. I have what I did from the Sun Belt because the Sun Belt put like yellow on white, and you couldn't make it out at all. All right. This, at least, although small on my screen, is still much more legible than it was before. But let's just go to the first four, and you can see it is the Cajuns versus Marshall and ODU versus Georgia State. All right. Again, we started going over the stats. I had my glasses. You know, is it me or just sometimes, I don't know if it's just being tired or up all day or whatever it is, but sometimes it's just blurry compared to what it normally is. Like usually I can see the computer in front of my face, and right now I cannot. So in terms of batting, all right, Marshall is right smack dab in the middle of the conference. They're 7th. The Cajuns are 13th. Pitching wise, though, the Cajuns are 3rd and Marshall is 9th, but that's about a run and a half difference ERA wise. All right. And just kept up with the Cajuns a little bit more because they were in the thick of things compared to Marshall. All right. And so the question is, who's Marshall going to pitch, right? Do they go with their Friday night starter, right? They have to win the conference tournament. So that's also a thought process, right? The Cajuns need to win this ball game and probably one more, and they'll be in the NCAA tournament. Marshall has to win the conference tournament. So I don't know if they're going to go with their best guy to begin with, because if you win it, you have to have somebody to go to. You got to set up the rotation for the whole tournament. And so it'll be interesting to see how both of these teams, and I have not seen anything yet, how both of these teams play this one out. All right. And neither of these two teams did not play each other. All right. Marshall and the Cajuns did not play. It is tough to make a prediction. We are going to have Matt Stewart on for Tuesday episode, and he'll have spoken to all of the coaches, and maybe he'll have the rotation, and maybe we'll find out on Monday. I'm off Monday and Tuesday, so as soon as we find out, we'll certainly pass it along. But I presume both coaches are looking to see how they recover. I guess I heard Nick Domain on Ragin Review said Tony Robichaux's, the way he handled rest was what did he say? 1 hour for every inning? Is that what it was? Of rest? No, that's not right. 1 hour of you need at least 1 hour of rest. That's not it. The hours of rest, I can't think of what it was. But it was basically you need, maybe it was pitches thrown per hour rest or something like that. I don't know what it was. But basically, if you're pitching, like Andrew Herrmann was pitching on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I mean, well, Andrew Herrmann pitched on Friday. So that's Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And so that's 3 days of rest. So that's 72 hours. All right. Cody Brasch would be a little bit more, right? He'd have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. He'd have 4 days to rest. Why can't I think of what it was? I'd never heard it from Roe before, but you need a certain amount of rest per hour that you're going on. All right. So that's what it was. And so we'll see if, who's going to do it. As far as ODU and Georgia State go, same thing. Let's check out their statistics. All right. And ODU has played much better as of late. All right. Their pitching is fifth in the hitting is fifth in the Sun Belt, average wise. And pitching is a little bit towards the bottom there, 11th. All right. The pitching is pretty close there towards the bottom. Though. 9th is Marshall with a 6.14 ERA. And it feels like Georgia State is 6.17. And maybe Old Dominion is 6.17. Or, they look like they're both 6.17. So actually tied for 10th. But those are not great numbers. But ODU has been playing much better. Georgia State's played okay as of late as well, to be honest. So I think that one's up for grabs. I'm going to pick the Cajuns. I don't think that's anybody shocked with that pick. And I'll pick ODU, all right, in those ball games to advance. And that means the Cajuns get Coastal and ODU gets Southern Miss. Now, again, ODU has played much better as of late. Different. I would presume Southern Miss is going to pitch their ace on Saturday or on Wednesday. I know Coastal did that. I thought Coastal did that last year. Coastal, I'm going to guess, is going to pick Luke Jones to pitch on Wednesday. They did not hold back. I remember last year, there was no moving of the rotation for Coastal Carolina. They didn't flip-flop anybody. They kept with Jacob Morrison, Cam Fluke, and went from there. Luke Jones actually pitched them into the championship, right? Or pitched the championship day. But no, they didn't. I know Kevin Schultz did not mess with his rotation for the Sun Belt Conference tournament. We'll see if Coach Ostrander does that for Southern Miss. All right, so we'll do more predictions when we get back. Let me take the time to thank you. All right, you guys have really come through. I don't know if it's just because of the Sun Belt all of a sudden, or we're putting more Southern Miss stuff up there, or whatever the case is. But our numbers, we usually get you're lucky for a couple of subscribers. We got more than a dozen subscribers in the last 48 hours. So we went from under 2,970 to now 2,980. That's a big jump. All right. So we're looking to get to the 3,000. We're hoping it was before 2026. That didn't happen that way. But certainly we're looking forward to being over 3,000 by the time football season gets here. And the way it jumped yesterday, we may be able to get 2,000. We may be able to get to 3,000 before the Sun Belt Conference tournament ends, or brackets are announced a week from today, or the regional gets going. So really do appreciate it. It's very kind. Going back and forth, it is interesting to see Southern Miss fans root for the Cajuns and then suggest that they belong in the NCAA tournament. So we had some fun with some Southern Miss fans on Sunday. All right. And just to make sure we all understand each other, I'm rooting for the Sun Belt. Okay. Once it becomes those two teams together at the end, we'll worry about that later. But we want as many Sun Belt teams in the NCAA tournament as possible. We can talk about that in those predictions coming up. All right. Just want to thank everybody. If you are new here, please go to Lockdown Sunbelt on YouTube and subscribe. And don't forget about the audio podcasts on Apple and Spotify. It's always very appreciated. Thank you. Okay. Predictions. All right. So we predicted the Cajuns going to beat Marshall, and ODU going to beat Georgia State. This is where it gets a little bit tricky for the other teams with the potential to get in to the NCAAs. Okay. So obviously if the Cajuns beat Coastal, it'll be very good, and their NCAA tournament bid would be solidified. The thing is, there's also Troy, which somehow fell to 46 while I was recording this podcast. They were 45. And Texas State is 44. Okay. So again, it's Texas State and App. Obviously, if Texas State's got to beat App if they want to get in as an at-large team. Obviously, they're going to beat App if they're going to win the conference tournament. So if Texas State beats App State, they get Coastal or the Cajuns. Now, here's the thing. You're going to get Coastal or the Cajuns again. You're going to get, if you beat them, you get the eventual winner of Coastal versus the Cajuns. That's how that works, right? Same for the Cajuns. If you beat Coastal, right, you're going to get the winner of whatever it is, say App State. In this case, say Texas State, because they have the RPI. Texas State will play Coastal, and you get the winner of that ballgame, which would help, right? If the Cajuns play Coastal back to back, although I guess they would play. Okay, I got ahead of myself with the Cajuns, and that I do have. Hold on, where am I? There we are. Okay. All right, maybe getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's do the Coastal side because the Cajuns and the Herd play first. So we'll just put the Cajuns right in there, and we'll say the Cajuns win. All right. Then they play the winner of Texas State and App State, and we'll just say, in this case, Texas State's going to win because we want more NCAA tournament winners in there. All right. So then you get the Cajuns and Texas State, and the winner of that moves on, whereas the loser has to play App State. All right. So App State takes on the loser of this ball game. That loser is eliminated, and that winner plays over here. So we'll just say it's Coastal, and we'll say it's the Cajuns, and Coastal would play the Cajuns. All right. So we will. I'm going to go with that for now. I'm going to go with that. I can change my mind if we find out who's pitching and I don't agree with it. But I'm going to say the Cajuns are going to play Coastal I'm going to say Coastal is going to beat the Cajuns. All right. It is going to be interesting to see if the I don't want to say attitude. I mean, everybody's going here to try and win the tournament. All right. They got to believe it to do it. Whether it's in reality doesn't really matter. All right. Anybody who's playing in this thing thinks they can win the tournament. Okay. What happens to the Cajuns or if it's Marshall, in game number 4, that's tough to do. That's where it's really stretching it thin, not to mention game number 5. I guess you'll worry about that later. Also for the Cajuns, I guess my point was, if they get to this point right here, they are in the NCAA tournament. If somehow they get to this point right here, meaning they beat Coastal Carolina, they beat the Herd, they beat Coastal Carolina, and they beat either Texas State or App State. Now, if you're Texas State and you beat App, and then you lose over here, it's going to be tough to get into the NCAA tournament. But if you beat App State, lose to the Cajuns, but then beat Coastal, and it's the Cajuns and Texas State, then they can get there. Then I think they'll be fine. All right. And obviously the winner is most certainly it. All right. And, the same thing is true on the other side. The difference is, in this case, right, whereas the Cajuns just beat Coastal Carolina, not like Coastal won't be motivated by that reason or not, but I don't think Southern Miss is losing to ODU or Georgia State. That I don't think. So I think Southern Miss is going to get South Alabama or Troy. That's where that's going to come in. And that's going to be the difference. And so then, they'll both be pitching. If both those teams win, whether it be, we'll just say Southern Miss and then Troy or South Alabama, both of them will be on their second pitcher, right? Everybody's on one short day rest. But by the time they get there, that is on Thursday. All right. So I think Southern Miss is going to roll. I'll pick South Alabama to beat Troy. And I'll pick, Southern Miss to beat South Alabama. And then I guess it's South Alabama against Troy again, technically. And so we'll pick South Alabama again, and we'll pick Southern Miss to beat South Alabama to face Coastal in the championship. I do think it will be that. Again, if the Cajuns were sitting at 6, it would be different, but it's not. That's where I think Coastal will have the advantage over the Cajuns. And I guess the point going back is, if the Cajuns somehow are playing in the semifinals, basically, and the right to go to the championship, it may be a different kind of attitude adjustment to whereas they can breathe easier and relax a little bit. They may even do that if they beat Coastal, right? If they beat the Herd and beat Coastal, and they're sitting there against App State or Texas State, they may have already decided that they've won, right? Not, kind of more mentally than anything else, right? Because now you take a deep breath. Now we have a top 40 RPI. Our RPI is not going to go up that much or down that much with a loss to Texas State. Go down a little bit if it's App, because App's around 100. But now you've won a couple of games. Even if you get bounced in that ball game, you got another chance to play another game. So it'll be interesting to see how the Cajuns' attitude can be adjusted, because all of a sudden, if you win 2 straight ball games, whether that be, again, I don't think it's going to happen on the other side with ODU or Georgia State, but if the Cajuns win 2 straight ball games, then then that attitude is going to change. Like, well, we can win this thing, right? or at least get to the championship game to secure their spot for the NCAA tournament. That would be, I'd worry about beating Southern Miss when I got to Southern Miss and then figure out what pitching I'm going to get to for the 5th time in 5 days. All right. All right. Again, the plan is Matt Stewart, who will have the call of the Sun Belt Conference tournament for ESPN Plus up until, of course, the championship game, as it always seems to be. He is going to join us on, let's see if we get this up here. We're going to record on Monday afternoon, and we'll have it for Tuesday. All right. So he is gracious enough to join us in what will be an incredibly busy day where he is going to be interviewing all the coaches. I get to interview him. And so we'll see if he thinks that anybody besides the Cajuns can make a run. All right. Can we get an upset? Can, again, ODU take down Georgia State and then take down Southern Miss. All right. So we shall see. All right. Again, thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate it. We're getting so close to 3,000. I do think that 3 teams from the Sun Belt are going to get in if the Cajuns beat Marshall and there's an outside shot, if maybe Troy can make a run. All right. And their hard schedule does pay off for them. Skylar Meade came on here and told us that we went on the road more often than we played at home. We got a better RPI because of it. Now, they dropped some midweek ball games that they shouldn't have dropped or hurting them for dropping them. But, I mean, you got 3 teams that are sitting at 40, 43, and 46. If those 3 teams can win a couple of ball games each, and technically I think they can, then they all may get in. I can't imagine getting 5 Sun Belt teams in, but you can get certainly 3, if not 4. And then maybe 5. I mean, technically, it could be Texas State and Troy playing for the Sun Belt Conference Championship. Where would the Cajuns have ended up then? The Cajuns could still have, 2 wins out of that, 3 wins out of that as well. All right. What happens if they beat Coastal, lose to Texas State the first time around, beat Coastal again, and then lose to Texas State? So it's viable that Texas State and Troy could be playing each other. I don't think that's going to happen. But then you'd have a shot at having 5 Sun Belt teams in the Sun Belt Conference tournament or in the NCAAs. So it is it's a lot of fun. We're going to get some Power 4 teams in there that don't belong, right? That someone puts Clemson in there at 10 and 20 in the ACC is ridiculous. That you have to ask, and Michael Alford's from Florida State, so he's part of the ACC. But Michael, what part of winning matters? I get that it's a hard schedule, but you can't lose 2 out of 3 ball games and get to the NCAA tournament. I don't care how hard your schedule is. You got to win. You may be better than some Sun Belt teams, but you're not better than the competition you were playing. So it's not remember, this is not the best 64 teams. It's just not. Not when you have automatic berths from all the conferences. It's just not. And I don't think that it matters. We wanted to see Murray State last year. Murray State getting to Omaha was fantastic, right? Great. We like more of that. All right. All right. Thank you very much for tuning in. Again, appreciate all the subscribers. Keep them coming. Let's see if we can get to 3,000. I don't think we'll get to 3,000 before the Sun Belt Conference tournament starts, maybe before it ends. And then hopefully we'll get to 3,000 maybe before the regionals. All right. Do appreciate it. Thank you so much. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Have a great Monday, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Tuesday. That was crazy. That was bad.